Let's make something beautiful today. Today we're working on a wire-wrapped link, something that's going to be great to incorporate into a lot of different things. As you see here, obviously this is a bracelet. This could be extended into your necklaces. I think this would be great to mix and match with some other links to create a totally custom look. And as you see here, I extended the link and we've got this drop bar link for earrings. So it's really depending on how long you make it, you can do a lot of different things on it. And this one, I was making these smaller ones, and this one ended up, I don't know what I did, but somehow it is longer. It is not the same size. And I thought, you know what, that's big enough that you could probably mount beads to that. And you could have a focal link in the middle that's, you know, slightly different size than your other links, and wire wrap some beads to that. It has a nice little platform there that is wide enough to maybe put a 4 or 6 millimeter bead on there, or maybe something rectangular. I think that would look really great to just echo this look. So I'm going to show you how to make this link. Let's go over what you're going to need to do it. 18 gauge is what I used to make the link. I started off with 16 and it just seemed to just be too difficult to work with, even at dead soft, with trying to get the wraps in there and redirect the wire and things like that. 18 gauge is a great happy medium. It's got that strength, it's got that structure, but it's still easy to work with. And of course I'm using dead soft. I usually always use dead soft. Workhorses of this project: flat nose, needle nose. I mean, I went back and forth between the two depending on what I needed to redirect or clamp down, back and forth the whole time. Of course, you know, bail pliers, and you're going to need some cutters. Keep your file handy in case you need to file down any sharp edges, and a ruler, of course. Let's get started. I'm going to pull out some of this 18 gauge. I'm going to wipe it down, making sure it's nice and clean, ready to go. You don't have to worry so much about flush cutting because the ends are going to be trimmed anyway. Each one of these smaller links I used 5 inches, but when I was doing this longer bar link, I used 7 inches. You could probably go to 8 just to make sure you have enough to really work with. Keep this ruler handy. You're going to need it to make bends in your wire. And 5 inches, I'm going to go to the middle, which is 2.5 inches. I want this smaller link to be 1/2 inch, not in total length, just in the length in between the end loops. I'm going to find the middle, 2.5, and I'm going to go out to the side 1/4 of an inch. Once you've got that marked, we're going to do about a 45-degree bend. Now, a lot of times I was doing a straight 90-degree, and it seemed to make the loops on the end a little more difficult to manipulate and get corrected. So I went with about 45 degrees, and it seemed to really eliminate that problem. Now, it's hard to tell, but this is my short end, and we're going to start with one of these loops on the end. And I'm using the 2 millimeter bail on my pliers. Got it in the corner. It's nice and straight, and then I'm just going to press it nice and firmly over that bail. Turn my pliers, and then take this tail and wrap it around. Not super tightly. We want a little bit of this gap in here, and you're going to see here in just a few seconds. Just making sure I've got it the way I want it. I think that's good. Now I'm going to transition my pliers into my left hand, my non-dominant hand, because now I'm going to pick up my needle nose pliers, and we need to bend this tail. We need to bend it so now that it is parallel with this extension here. I'm hoping that I can do this in a way that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put my pliers right in this spot, and then I'm going to twist down. I've got it locked in. I hope you can see. I've got it right in there. This is really awkward. But I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. And I'm holding this in my hand very firmly. And when I'm doing this twist, I'm not just twisting, I'm also pushing in to the bail pliers. Just take your time and go slowly. There will be some adjustments. Every single time I've done this, I've had to adjust this loop on the end to get it more uniform in shape. And that is completely okay. To do that, I've used my needle nose pliers and just pinching that where it needs to be reshaped a little bit. Pinch those two lead wires together, bring them nice and parallel. If your loop is a little wonky, you can just go around with your 2mm bail and just reshape that circle. And you should have something like this by now. Okay, you've kept this ruler handy. Let me show you what to do next. I'm just going to find an inch, doesn't matter which one. I'm going to set this loop just on the other side of the inch, and then I'm going to go in a 1/2 inch. Remember, we're going for about a 1/2 inch for this smaller link. My hand might be in the way just a little bit, but what I'm going to do is put my edge right at that 1/2 inch mark. You might have to split your wire just a little bit to get your pliers in there. And I just have to find that 1/2 inch mark. I've got it like this. In this longer piece, we're going to bend back over the pliers about 45 degrees. Now this is going to be in your way just a little bit. It will be all right. You just have to act like it's not there.
Great advice.
And we're basically doing the same thing we did on the other side. I'm going to come back with my bail pliers. I'm going to put it in there so that I can wrap my wire around this 2mm bail. Get it nice and straight. Same deal. Press right on over that bail. And then you can turn your pliers, line everything up. Now this time, this wire is going to swing underneath. I can't bring it over top, so I need to just swing this underneath. And I know it's a little weird because of this wire's in the way, but this is what we've got. Now I'm going to flip it so that now that loop that we just created is on top again. And I'm still holding it with the 2mm bail because we have to make that bend. So I'm going to come back in with my tweezer nose pliers right in this little spot. Right here. Holding everything very firmly. And basically, as a tip, I'm putting my pliers over top this extending wire coming down because I know the bend is going to happen just on the outside of my pliers, and that's where I want this little bend. So I'm going to put my pliers over that wire so that the bend will happen just to the right side of it. Again, holding firmly and pressing into the bail at the same time until that wire comes down over it parallel-ish. Again, you will have to have some adjustments. Slip your pliers in there and just press that down flat. Now you see like this little bowing. Just take your pliers in there, squeeze it shut. Maybe give a little wiggle if you need to. And they should be sitting next to each other like that. Parallel. Now this loop is slightly wonky, but it's really easy to fix once we get these wraps that go around on the end. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. Now the next phase is these extending arms need to rest on top of the end loops. I'm just letting them sit there a little bit. You see it coming together. We're getting these wires lined up. This is where the flat nose really came in handy because you can really hold a lot of these wires nice and flat, very firmly. And one thing I am doing, this is something for you to consider. Down in your jaw of your pliers is going to be more firm and more secure than at the end. So I've got it deep in the jaw, plus I have the wire that I'm going to be manipulating even closer into the deepest part of the jaw. So in hopes that it stays more secure and where I want it. So that's why I have it lined up with it coming out and down on this end. You don't have to bend straight up, but for some reason, I bend straight up and then I bend straight over to create the beginnings of these wrappings. And I don't do anything fancy other than make the wraps on the end and then clean them up at the end. Now you're saying, Carrie, well, you've got this bowing out. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in just a little bit. Flip that on over, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I do have to make sure that this wire's on top. And as for how far you come away from the end loop to create these wraps, that you're just going to have to eyeball it. Now, as long as you can get a match, it'll be just fine. Same deal, deep into the jaw of your pliers, holding firmly. You can just press over, press straight up, doesn't matter. And we're going to put these wraps in at the end. If you're using dead soft, this should be fairly easy until you get kind of towards the end. Cut yourself a little extra. 5 inches is not enough for you to manipulate the end of that wire. Now I'm coming back in with the needle nose because I want to press down on the individual wires. This one's really good if you want to just grab a bunch of things at one time. It's really wonderful for that. But at this point, I want to get into certain wires, especially like right here where it's bowing out a little bit. And it's as simple as just squeezing it together and kind of making a column in a way. I'm going to flip that over and do the other side. And just keep working those wraps until they're sitting together nice and securely and flush and just the way you want them. You can trim these ends. I like to try to trim it while it's still sticking up a little bit, because if you lay it down all the way before you've cut, then it's really hard to get your pliers in there. So I'll trim and then come back with the pliers and tuck that end in. Nice, that was too short. Oh, that was good, good. I've got that side tucked in. And now we can do just a few little finishings with our loops on the end, just to line things up. Wow, I did not get the wraps to the end of this one. My goodness, that doesn't match at all, Carrie. I don't know how I did that. I can't bring him to the end either. Jeez.
I hope she knows what she's doing.
I'm just going around making sure I've got everything tucked in, looking at from the side, making sure the wraps are laying level, making sure that the loops are going in the same direction as well. You don't want them twisted, so make sure you take 2 chain nose pliers and line those up. And you'll end up with a sweet little link just like this. Now, I want to do it again because if you can see it, I have an error. I didn't get my wraps positioned correctly. Like I wanted a little snugger on the loop than I have it on this end. Now, if you like that, that's perfectly fine, but I want them to match. So I'm going to do this again with you one more time and see if I can get better on the second round. You would think by now that I would have it. I'm picking up that 18 inches again and pulling out 5 inches. Remember, you can always cut a little bit more if you need that extra to work with. Okay, I've got my 5 inches on the ruler. I'm going to find 2.5, and I'm going to go over to the right and find 1/4 of an inch out from that. And then I'm going to put a 45-degree bend in that. Once I've got this, I'm going to pick up my bail pliers using the 2mm bail, and we're going to put a loop on the end. Got it like this. Pressing firmly and close to the bail. And then you can twist and turn your hand and your pliers and all that until it looks like this. Grab the end of that wire and pull it around that bail. Now, it does not have to be a perfect round circle. I did run into difficulties. If I really yanked this kind of 90 degrees, it made that little bit of bowing that you encounter when you're trying to make the wires parallel. It is really amplified. So if I kept it slightly teardrop, I could get my pliers in there a little easier, and that bowing was not so prominent. I didn't have as much to fix. All right, I'm going to again switch my bail pliers over to my left hand. I need to bring this to the end here. Not with fuzz. Tweezer nose to really get into this little spot right here. And remember, I'm putting the pliers over this extended wire because the bend is going to happen just to the left of it, and that's where I want this wire to bend down. I hope you can see. It is really, really hard because I don't hold my pliers in the wire like this, and I'm trying to show you where I have my pliers placed. Can you see that? Really trying to get it in there so you can see. Once I've got it positioned very securely, going slowly, I'm going to turn and press into the bail pliers at the same time. Maybe pinch that, you know, if it's sitting a little too wide, you can always just pinch it a little closed while it's on the pliers. So I've got a little something like that. I can see I need to adjust something. Again, I can't position my hands like I normally would because I'm trying to get it all up underneath the camera. So I'm doing a little more adjusting than I normally would, but yeah, you know how it is. I'm just going to redirect this loop just a little bit. Again, all this can be adjusted at the end, but it irritates me now, you know? If you've got any of that little bowing in there, which is apt to happen, it happens all the time with me, depending on the angle of the bend for the loop. Did you do 90 degrees? Did you do 45 degrees? It really depends a lot on that. I'm just going to give a little wiggle in there. And you'll have that. Back with our ruler, because we need to find a half an inch from the edge of this loop. I've got my loop hanging out to the side. I'm going to just open those wires just a little bit, and I'm going to find a half an inch from this point in. And just press this over at like 45 degrees angle. Another thing I forgot to say is, you know, when I was doing this, I'm like, which way am I supposed to turn this? Which way am I supposed to turn? Turn it to this extended wire onto this side. Whatever side this wire is on, that is the way that this goes. I couldn't remember. I'd have to run through the whole scenario in my brain of which way to turn it for the next loop. So you're going to basically turn into this extended wire because we're going to make the loop. It's going to wrap around, and then this wire is going to be now on this side. So that's why it's working in this direction. I'm back with my bail pliers, and I've got this 2mm bail in there. And I know it's a little weird trying to see in there what is going on, but it is the same motion and action that we did for this loop over here. I've got it in that 2mm. And if you need to, you can open this just a little bit so you can get that on your pliers better. Pressing that around. Until it's straight out here. Now remember this time it goes under, because you can't bring it on the top. All that other stuff is there. Now I'm going to flip over so it's sitting on the top now. Transition over to my left hand, my non-dominant hand. If you need to make a space for your tweezer nose or your chain nose pliers, you can do that at this point. This is totally adjustable to make it a little more accessible for yourself. I think that works well. Again, I'm going to set my tweezer nose right on top of this extended wire coming down, because the bend will happen over here on the left, and that will make it sit right down next to it. And I hope I can do this so you can see what in the world I'm doing. It is right there over top that wire. Holding firmly and going slow and pressing into the bail at the same time. I'm just going to make that turn to set that wire parallel to the other one. I've already scratched my wire. And now you can just kind of make things sit down next to each other. If there's any bowing, you might see something in there. You see where I nicked my wire? Yeah, I can take that all off with radial discs and smooth it out. You won't even know. Plus, the wraps are going to cover that, so who cares?
Who cares?
If you have any of that bowing right in here, take your chain nose pliers, your flat nose, and just press it together. You can wiggle, just wiggle back and forth a little bit, and it will make things sit together. I don't know why, but it does. We want both of these wires to kind of come together and then sit on top of the end loops. So really concentrating on the middle, you see that it's together. Not so worried about that sitting on top because it's going to be looped around to make wraps, but I'm concentrating on that. This looks good. Now, will I be able to eyeball this a little better? That was shameful, shameful.
Shame.
How bad that was. Now, is anybody going to be able to see that when you're wearing a bracelet? No. Now, earrings they might. So you definitely need to make sure that you get it as close as possible with your wraps. And of course, you know, if it helps you measure off a little area. I'm just going to put these wraps in and hope that they will match this time. Not pressing fully around, just kind of keeping it open so I can come back and trim and then press it down. Will this be correct? I'm thinking this might be a little better. Let me press that together before I bend it. Hold it firmly. Press up and over. And put the wraps in. Okay, okay. I think this one's better. Now this one is still, this one might be up a little too much on it, but you know what? Who cares? I do like to eyeball things. Now we're going to come through and we're just going to tidy things up, really squeeze these wraps down. That little part that bows out, all you got to do is just squeeze it down and kind of make a column here. They are kind of Romanesque in a way. I do like that. Oh, I just pressed that down. It's going to be a little harder to get in there and cut, Carrie. It's fine. I'll be able to do it. Same thing over here. We're just going to press that little part that sticks out just a little bit, press it down, and bring those wires together, bring the wraps together. Let me trim that first before I do any more. Come from the side, make sure it's level, top and bottom. You don't have any bumps sticking up. I need to lift that up just a little bit more because it got pressed down when I was adjusting my wraps. So I can get my pliers in here and trim that little excess off. Chain nose pliers, we're going to tuck that down. Straighten out those wraps. I get a little roughness here, so I want to file that down. And the radial discs are so wonderful. You do not have to have one of those big Fordham flex shafts to really get a great polish and a sanding on your pieces. You can just use a Dremel. That's all I have. Now, do I want a Fordham flex shaft? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Do I want that thing that cuts your jump rings with the saw? Yes, I do. It's on my wish list. One of these days, I will get it. But for now, the Dremel from 1994 is going to be just fine. Again, we want to make sure that our loops are straight and even. Press those wraps down. And do we need to adjust these little loops on the end? Slightly on this one, I think. I'm holding this firmly, just bringing it over, just the tiniest little bit with your pliers is all it takes. And there you have this cute little link. Oh my goodness. That is so cute. I love how the curves on the edge. And you see here how it was used in a bracelet. Really, really lovely for that. And it's not so, being that they are 1/2 inch, it's not clunky on the wrist. It's just small enough that you still have that slinkiness, but I don't know, it's kind of giving some nautical and equestrian look again. I really like that. Now, this clasp, I have no idea what I did. I just, you know, every time I do a clasp, it is completely different. I don't know, I have no plan. I just grab wire and I start bending it and put it on there. I really don't follow any rhyme or reason or pattern. Every single clasp is completely different. It's like when I make biscuits. They're just different every single time I make them. So I don't have a specific tutorial on that. I just grabbed the 2mm bail and curved around and then curved around the 5mm bail and put a little bend on the end and sanded it. There's really nothing too much to that. And for the earrings, remember this one has, from this inner part is 1 inch long. really you can make this as long as you want. I will say that the longer it gets, the little bit trickier it is to get all this nice and parallel. So start with something a little smaller, and then you can work to larger if you want some longer bar earrings to match. And I put these lovely, look at those, these faceted green aventurine bracelets. Really, that is, well, you know me in green. That's just great. I will be selling these at the craft fair that is coming up on the 15th of this month. It's the first time I've ever done that, so I'm excited about that as well. And in light of that, there may not be a tutorial for next week. I will do my best, but I'm just not positive at this moment if we're going to have a tutorial for next week or not. And then you have Thanksgiving. I had a whole grandiose plan that I was going to record 3 different earrings today and have a 3-part series using chain, and I struggled and struggled and struggled. So don't worry if you're getting into wire wrapping or any type of wire jewelry and you struggle, because I've been doing this for a while now and I still struggle, and it's completely okay. Sometimes you just need to take a break. Sometimes you need to take a breather, try something else, and that's what I did here. The chain was driving me crazy, so I went back to what I love: straight lines, loops, classic looks, nautical looks, equestrian looks. I love that stuff, as you can tell, because half of the tutorials are these parallel lines. I don't know why I love it, but I do. Thank you for your feedback on whether or not you watch longer or shorter tutorials. Most of you, I think it was 70-some% said that the length of the tutorial doesn't deter you from watching it. So I loved that feedback. That was really important, so that I can gauge how long does it need to be? What do people want? What do people have time for? So I have a feeling that people that like shorter videos don't even have time to take 2 seconds to do the poll. That's the way I am, so, you know, I understand. No worries. Just wanted to get your feedback, and I appreciate it. I also appreciate your comments and your hyping this video. And if you like this kind of material, like it's kind of laid back and fun and hanging out with a friend, make sure that you subscribe. And again, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week. You make something beautiful, and you join me again for Tutorial Tuesday. What in the world? That was stupid. My goodness. Gee Louise. What in the world? This is no-go. I don't know. Gee Louise. Yeah, nice big friggin' bend. What? What? Come on, yo. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.